Hello and welcome everyone to Friday. It's going to be a North American day here, week number 2 of the PPL, the last day for this week. My name is Gormizer, and joining me on the desk today to go over the pre-show is once again...
It's us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we introduce every single time, but it's always the same 3 people.
I don't know if it has the same shock value as we intended it to have.
Maybe we'll switch seats one day or something.
Did you guys think it would be us, or did
For
you
Halloween, we can... Oh, we're not...
Or is it on us to
like
start backwards and spin our chairs around?
I think that's the play. Is Halloween on a weekday? You can continue while I figure this out.
I was just thinking, the one time that we did do the spin around as an intro, I think it was for Esports Weekly.
It's a Wednesday.
First thing that happens is I slam my knee against a little shelf we have under the desk, and it was a very excruciating first 5 minutes. After that, it started to go away, but it was just like, cool, I got to sit here and smile. My knee just, oof.
It's so good about that.
Sorry about your knee pain, man.
Oh, it's fine. Today we're going to see if any other teams
it's fine.
happen to be having any pain, as G2 is going to be going in for a doubleheader today against Splyce and Renegades.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the first question I really have for you guys is just G2, how are they looking without drop bodies and with Flame instead?
I'd say the biggest thing for me is that they're still looking themselves. They're not afraid to do something because it's Flame and because it's bodies. I think Flame fit pretty seamlessly into where bodies would have been serving in a lot of those compositions, and it's good to see that G2 is still G2 even without bodies.
You can only hope for Flame to do so much at the get-go, but he's honestly been at or above expectations most of the time. Had a few drop-offs. Kyle talked about him getting in his head a little bit. It's always difficult to go into like a number 1 seed team and be expected to perform, but I mean, he's had a lot of great moments too. I think they're holding their heads high, saying this is this can work.
Imagine being in a position where you get told, by the way, you're the sub for drop bodies. Like this guy who has not only been playing with us for so long, but one of the number 1 players that we have in North America.
Listen, back in the day, and I have it on film, I whooped drop body's butt on Eevee. Okay, and he was Andro. But I did, what was so funny about that moment? It's like, I was like, damn, this guy's actually really good. I'm really glad I won, because that would have been annoying, because he just killed me all the time. Like, screw this Androxus. But I think when you play against Flame, you have that same impact. He's somebody you'll see in casuals at a high level in North America, and he's an extremely strong player that makes you say, God, this guy is really good, and I hate him.
You see the load screen, you're just like, oh, okay.
Really? Okay. All right. And he's duo with, with Vex. You got pocket healed? Okay,
sick,
that's
dude.
fun.
Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, the second match of the day is actually going to be G2 versus Renegades. And Renegades, we kind of expected a lot from them earlier this week when they played against Envy, and they didn't really deliver on what I think we all were kind of expecting. So do you think this set is going to be something a little bit closer to that, or do you think Renegades are like just going to flounder again?
It was like a pizza delivery. Like they showed up at the door, they had the pizza box, and there was no pizza inside, unfortunately. It just was the box.
Ate it all?
So you wanted the pizza too? Renegades brought like half of their squad ready to play on that day. I don't know what went down. It was either Envy playing out of their minds, and maybe that's it. I think that's a large part of it.
Yeah.
But Renegades didn't look themselves, man.
Renegades has been looking damn good this season, and I think they do a particularly good job of playing their game, no matter who it is they're against, making the adjustments they need to for certain teams. I think, for instance, like getting the Andro away from Flame against G2, not a massive adjustment, but an adjustment that I think really threw him off balance in that set, while Envy's still managing to get everything that they need to succeed.
Yeah. I mean, Envy's just a top dog for a reason. They're so focused. They haven't been top dog before. It's very much like Na'Vi, where they wanted to get the win over Fnatic. They cared about it more than Fnatic, because Fnatic have done it every single season. Na'Vi have never done it, and so it was a little bit of a check that box on our list type vibe. And now that Envy have done that, I expect the second round we will see a closer set, and I think today we'll see Renegades really go at G2, knowing they got to get a W.
I think that was going to be the biggest question on my mind, is just Renegades bringing both of these points together with the way they looked against Envy, but the fact that G2 has Flame instead of drop bodies. Do you think this is giving them a much bigger chance to cause an upset and actually take down G2 here?
I think it depends where Flame goes and if he's comfortable, right? If they can get him to Andro comfortably, and that'll be fun to watch because you've got Loki on the other side, so Andro hopefully will be contested pick. I always like to see him picked rather than banned, just because I think he's a really fun guy to watch. But at the end of the day, Renegades have always given G2 a little bit of trouble here and there. For whatever reason it is, Renegades always play pretty well against G2. I suppose you can take that angle of if there was ever a chance to do it, it's now with the substitute player. That being said, I don't think Flame is necessarily an easily exploitable weakness.
We see the difference between top teams be the little things, not necessarily how one player hits their headshots or not, but against Navis and Fanatics where the little things are really those moments, that's where we see it. But for G2 and Renegades, that matchup, I see it more as the draft. I see it more as the well-oiled machine of communication, the machine of how you play a map. Do you take low ground or high ground? Why? What champions have you put into your lineup, and what have you countered out? We saw a lot of counters that just were either on the same side or not on the same side, and you say, well, why didn't you? And that, making us ask questions that we don't know the answers to, I think is where we see some of these types of matchups go the way of another team more heavily. So if Renegades keeps it tight and they win those things, I think they're going to hit the shots today. I just don't know how on the bigger scheme of the meta, G2 will be able to, or more likely, Renegades will be able to match G2.
And speaking of meta and drafting, like you had mentioned, it making a big impact, with G2, you never really know what they're going to draft. They always tend to go towards these drafts and picks that are a little bit different. They're the ones trying out the Snow Globe Eevee. Does that actually work? Is it going to be different? As well as some different maps. We got to see them take Envy to Timber Mill, which is not one that we'd get to see too often. Do you think any of that is going to get pulled out here against Renegades, or do you think we're going to see a little bit more standard cut from G2?
I mean, with Renegades being where they are and G2 having already got a loss to Envy, this is actually a must-win game for them. So I think that we're going to see a little bit more of a settled G2 to where they're going to maybe pull out the Eevee if they feel it has a great lineup, a chance to succeed, and if not, then they're going to stick to their guns. I don't expect much Koga unless it's like a 2-0 and 4-0s on each map.
It depends where they're at mentally, you know what I mean? Like, we'll see that at LAN, right, where they're just getting wild, and then, like, starts to get a little bit real, and then they start to slow down. They start to get a little bit more traditional, I think. And then at that point, for me, it always feels like that's just G2 have kind of like lost what makes them them.
Yeah.
So at that point, I've never really been excited about G2 play. I think when you do cornier stuff or more fringe stuff, I guess is a better word, it's more effective against Renegades who probably don't go there as often, whereas Envy come to LAN, they come and play all different types of teams and longer sets, best of sevens, where they're more likely to be seeing those maps anyway. So those sort of fringe strategies are going to be effective against the lower end teams.
I guess it'll also depend because, again, against Renegades is going to be the second set that they're going to be playing today. But the first one they actually have to do is go through Splyce, who I think is a little bit more equipped to handle those. I feel like they're used to having stuff like that thrown at them, considering what G2 has done in the past, which is throw exactly those kind of compositions right at Splyce's face.
But to be fair, I mean, Splyce do a fair bit of fringe picking as well. They were like the first couple of guys to bring out Victor. They look good on Fish Market with Strix.
I mean, Ricotta's as close to a North American Alex as you can get, except I think Ricotta's had a little bit better of a mechanical performance than, Ricotta's had a better performance than mechanically than Alex over the course of these last few games. He will absolutely go to a Canessa when there are other viable options, just because this is one of his favorite champions. He's comfortable here, and people give him enough respect to where they will not just bum rush him and say, what are you going to do about it, kid? You know, what are you going to do? And I think that does give Splyce a little bit of flexibility in their draft. I don't know how much they'll take advantage of it, and that's always the deciding factor. How much do you take advantage of your flexibility?
So this was a team that for the longest time was left kind of in the dirt. They didn't get a win for forever until actually the summer split. They find one against SK, and then in the fall split they come in. They start out with a loss, but they finally get another win against SK again. Do you think that this is a chance for them to actually find a third win, or is this more or less kind of settled from the beginning?
I'd be really surprised if their second win came at the hands of G2.
Yes.
I think, Koga's in the mix as well.
Yeah.
I think if anyone's likely to play it, it's going to be G2, right? I don't know why I just see Evil Eye being able to pull that off a little bit better.
He can, but I actually, in my opinion, see Splyce doing it more because I think newer teams who are trying to jump up need that extra bit of spice to shake a giant, right? Again, we talked about it yesterday. You play the meta that somebody else invented and you don't have the same players that they do. It's a little bit of a budget version of that meta that they're already going to have perfected. So you kind of got to change something. I'd be interested to see if Splyce have a little Koga in their back pocket and are ready to pull it out.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they're going to be able to pull through. It's a lot of things that are just how can Splyce really swing things over into their favor, but we actually have an interview with Gbunny to be able to get a little look inside Splyce and their thoughts for this set against G2. So we're going to go ahead and go to that, go to a quick break, and then be back with set number 1 of Friday.
Welcome, everybody. I got Gbunny here. I hold shift on this side of the table across the country. Gbunny rocking the black and gold. First and foremost, how you feeling going into this fall?
feeling pretty good about this fall. You know, it's definitely going to look a lot better, I think, for this split than last split, because last split we had a mid-season roster change where I wasn't included into the roster, and we had barely any time to like work on team synergy, work on comps that we want to run, and like work on certain strategies for certain teams. Now this season, I think we're looking like a pretty strong team, and I think we're going to be showing it with our results this season.
So that's obviously what everyone is hoping for, especially with the expansion to include the top 3 teams from North America. Obviously, the top 2 is a different consideration, but a lot of people are looking at Splyce as potentially being the dark horse to take that number 3 spot if things do go well. First and foremost, you guys have to go up against G2 though. Granted, not technically at full force with bodies not being there. Do you guys feel pretty confident about your play style versus them as being able to take away a couple of maps, maybe even the full set?
Yeah, I think it is very possible looking to take the full set. If you look at the games from this week, G2 definitely don't look like what they were looking like last season. Losing bodies definitely like hurts her roster a lot, and I'm pretty confident going into them this week.
Sounds good. And of course, you guys talked about how you had that mid-season change, but I want to talk a little bit more about you personally, because you came essentially from the bottom. Now you're here. How does that feel to just kind of establish yourself through that hard work, that merit to get up to a level where you are a formidable Paladins professional player?
Yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy. It kind of happened out of nowhere, and like it just hits you like you just dropping in the water. Like you just have to like keep on sprinting through it. It's kind of crazy on how much you learn and how fast you learn it, and like how much these other players will punish you for a single mistake, and you learn really fast from it.
Yeah, no better example of that than the more veteran roster in G2. So last question as you guys go in, is this more about you guys outplaying G2 or just playing the best Splyce that you can?
I think it's a little bit of both. With Flame on their roster, he's not a bad player at all, but their roster isn't the same. I definitely think they're kind of one-dimensional, it looks like, in their play style right now. I think if we could take a few things away from them and play our strengths, play off our DPS, let them pop off, and have them like do a lot of the carrying, I think we'll be easily able to get victory.
It sounds good to me. I'm excited to see it happen. So best of luck to you, dude. Thanks for joining in with me. I appreciate that.
Have a good day.
We just got a whole meme video.
Yeah, turn my headphones up. To load. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's right. Low bone bass. Okay, we ready to go. You ready for the album? Ready for the album? We were doing a little dancing here. We had some bills flying. We were ready for our rap album. I don't know if production was able to get any of that, but we definitely are popping off, man. And I think it symbolizes the excitement of kind of the today, because this could be a big deal for G2 Esports. It could also be a big deal for Splyce. Oh, there it is. This is what we were doing. We had this going on. Production, you ready? You're always on top. William, you know, I start to
My glasses
wonder.
were a little too low.
I start to wonder. I like how you're consistent, though, because I don't think anybody can get too mad at you. Yo, they really got all this, huh? All right. Yeah, just all you got to do is play the music behind it. And then, I mean, then
It makes a lot more sense with the music behind it.
They're really in the business.
Man,
and
my haircut looks good, though.
It really does. And they just missed. Are they? Oh, no, William. See, William's not cheap. William ain't cheap here.
So you don't see the number. Those are all 20s.
Oh, man.
It's worth a lot.
We were having a good time.
I almost couldn't tell that it actually
I tell you-
transitioned back to us.
Listen, man, you know how I roll. Now you guys know, no one's in there, baby. All right, so let's take a look at what is unfolding here because we got a very, very expensive person next to me. But you know what's cheap? Tickets for highresexpo.com. That's right. highresexpo.com, November 16th to 18th, and you'll see the biggest event of the year. Smite and both of those tournaments in Paladins, of course, Paladins World Championship and the Paladins Console Wars. It is a big, big deal, and we're super excited for this and for the after party, which is honestly the most memorable. Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of night you're looking to have, but one of the most memorable opportunities at HRX.
Depending on, I guess.
Absolutely.
The
depending
drink
on your
level that
decisions.
you've had.
Depending on your decisions.
It could be memorable in the fact that, man, I don't remember what happened last night.
$20, William, not remembering a thing.
I wonder what that was. It was like about 20 a second. If I could make that kind of money all the time, I'd still be
my
right
rate's
here,
about
'cause it'd be
$20
awesome.
a second. Yeah. It's like, what do you do? Let's
Buy everything.
let's worry about it next time.
Sell high because it doesn't, or sell low because it doesn't matter.
I agree.
Because I'm making $20 a second.
You do whatever you want, and I think that's the freedom that, I think Splyce are trying to earn for themselves here to be able to take an L later on in the season because how long can this last? They've gotten that win against SK, and everyone else has gotten a win against SK, but can Splyce actually do it against G2 Esports, who have been touted and have been consistently the best team in North America for quite some time? Envy have been battling from second place on to try and challenge that. They were the only LAN winner as far as international LAN. Of course, in the North American European Spring, I believe it was the summer finals, it was G2 Esports who did take that W, but again, that was only in a EU. The international teams were not involved, so both of these teams have had their wins. Their LAN wins in different forms and facets, and I think it's up to, Splyce to say, we're going to take down one of the big dogs here and really make our stake in the PPL known.
And as we've already seen, Envy is a kind of a different beast right now. I think than
They are.
everyone else in North America. They
They're
are
crisp.
just that step ahead. They're kind of where we expected G2, Fnatic to typically be, especially after their performances in the spring and summer. And so if Splyce can get a win here, not only is it big just historically for them because they are not an org that has a ton of wins under their belt, but it's big because G2 is this team that the only difference is that Flame is there instead of Drop Bodies. That's really the only thing that's pulling them back. But even then, like we've mentioned before, Flame is a solid player, so Splyce still have to put a lot of work into it. Gbunny had mentioned it in his interview that even though Flame is there, he expects it to still be a tough match.
Well, Leon and Nara taken here, and this sets up a lot for G2. Flexible draft as far as the front line and the damage dealer. Josephs has been finding himself on that in R quite often, and this is what actually G2 used to hold that set and keep it alive when they were basically turning up a 3-1 over on top of its head and taking back that win that was looking like SK's. Grabbing the ruckus here as well. A lot of damage and a lot of control over the right side, which seems to be the new fight, almost like the Cathedral on a Stone Keep that people really battle over to have control.
First support of the game getting picked up all the way down there. Furia making it through 7th. And it feels like, again, if Splyce had wanted that would have been there for Drogoz or Ashe instead. So knowing that they kind of let G2 have that with the Inara, I think they were kind of expecting Inara once she came through to be healed up no matter who you give her.
Right.
And so the question is whether or not they can actually turn that into a lot of damage to deal with this Furia, to deal with the Victor, to deal with the Leon, and enough to take down the Inara.
Yeah, this is a very interesting lineup from both teams. You don't see any of the typical kind of sniper pickups that you would expect from Splyce on this map with a Rakata. It's going to be more traditional champions like a Cassie who has a lot of flexibility. I was actually very, very complimentary of Cassie's flexibility amongst the kind of damage-dealing class because she doesn't have to fight at range. She can fight at range, but still so good when the pressure does get closer. And that is where Rakata will live today. The Twilight Assassin, one of the bigger name carries. Evil Eye, the Dragon Baller, the new limited-time game mode, giving you that title. We'll actually be running the Burst mode, Victor. And it will be a Death and Taxes Leon for Flame Effects. Fortress Breaker for Gbunny.
Oh, actually switching Right at the tail end there. I'm
Battering
wondering if he's
ram.
going to be, battering ram, leaving the room with that. That's not typically the Ashe we've been seeing lately.
No, it's not.
But it's still going to be, I want to say impactful, but I'm more curious about this Victor. Burst mode is going to be kind of the pseudo-sniper, I think, for this map coming down from G2. And if he can hit a couple of good headshots, I mean, that is going to be easy kills onto the Drogos.
I like the battering ram. Who's going to interrupt you? Seismic Crash is really the only thing, or a Pyre Strike. There's nothing Ruckus can do, nothing Victor can do, nothing Leon can do.
True.
The only thing are a Pyre Strike and a Seismic Crash, especially since we saw Dosips, or Cuscuity, excuse me, go for the Mother's Grace. So Splyce, already off the gate, get a quick kill, snowball it into a few more. G2 Esports push back, using a little bit of that wall dash distance to escape back to the point.
You know, I will say I think this week has been upset week as far as things go.
You're right, Gore.
At least in the PGS, I'm wondering if it'll start translating over to the PPL. Gbunny's still going to be able to get a lot of aggressive. Rain getting aggressive on the side as well. And G2 not necessarily hiding, but definitely a little bit more cautious this time around going into the point.
And I think Gbunny feels the pressure there. They feel the heat. It's kind of like Fnatic when they turn it on to 1100 degrees. And beforehand, it was just a slight sweat. And you're like, wow, this is death. I mean, and this is death incarnate, truly. 99%, but Splyce need 100. 63% now for G2 Esports. And able to climb back. Ricotta with a beautiful 1v1. Misses the last shot. And finally takes down Evil Eye. Will it be enough?
That awkward timing when you have to reload, you know that it's going to be there. The wall's going to be perfect, 99 to 90. But it's going to be Splyce coming back in. Shadow going to get one kill, looking for another one as he charges the punch, and that's going to be Cuss off the board.
Wow, Shadow with a triple kill here. Beautiful stuff. Game one, round one, but that one goes to Splyce. Maybe a little bit of a surprise for those who watch the PPL. We saw Virtus Pro kind of have this type of start out yesterday. Will it end, though, in victory, Gore?
I think that's the big question on everyone's mind. Is G2 going to remain, I mean, even close to number 2? Or are they going to get taken down to the point where they're 3rd, maybe 4th, depending on how their set with Renegades and Splyce goes? So there's a lot that can change in just a few games, and with the way things have been going, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this could be it.
Shadow, man, we've seen Drogos make big plays all day today. Shadow has been really on point. I mean, just finding damage when he needs to. Dosips goes down. Gbunny with an easy cleanup there. Combustible has proven super valuable. The Victor Evil Eye not really able to touch the dragon in the skies. Still, minute 37, but he's found himself in a good spot. Push continues. Gbunny just backing off and allowing Ricotta to apply the pressure. This is just relentless from Splyce.
And look at how close that payload is. It's only been a minute since it spawned. This is way faster than most payloads go here. And Evil Eye can't even leave the base. And honestly, it does kind of feel like this Drogo's pick, while it's fantastic for Shadow, kind of like a scoop away from Evil Eye as well to make sure he couldn't have it. And it's been just such a big boon to Splyce's success. It's giving them so much that as long as they can keep this pressure up, they're golden.
Gbunny gets the little fake out, dude. Broke the ankles of Dosips, who cuts off the hallway. It looks like he's going there, and then all of a sudden, no sir. Shield comes up, not running Fortress Breaker. The shattering, the battering ram, which is one of the interesting kind of talents that we saw Ashe only play when she was viable and competitive, used to grant CC immunity, and that meant she could do it when any bad thing was happening, get the 90% damage reduction, and just not be CC'd. But now the CC immunity, having had it dropped off of the talent, has made it very precarious. But this is really one of the only moments where I see there's just literally 0 to no counters that are practically available for this whenever Gbunny wants to get out of trouble. And maybe that's an oversight by G2 Esports.
And it's taken a lot. I mean, earlier we just saw him escape from a Hexafire and essentially shrug it off like it was nothing. Using all that armor to good use. Cuss is getting relatively low. If they get a kill onto Cuss here, look at all the ults that have been used. Pretty much G2 has none. They have the barrage, maybe, to be able to throw out. But I don't know if you want to throw that down for the last point here. Maybe give them that 2-0, try to use the comeback mechanic. But they're going to be holding onto it as Splyce right now with all 4 ults still available since Immortal was used just a little earlier.
Big heal here coming through from its aspect, keeping Thane alive and healthy. That fireball is going to help Ricotta clean it up. Flame goes down. Gbunny up. Slams to the ground. G2 Esports, they might have to give this one up. Evil Eye takes a lot of damage, so he has to stay away. That's a beautiful combustible fire spit. Is it enough? Has he found himself in the right spot for rockets? He goes into the Dragon Punch, says hello to Dosips. One more will do it. He knocks him back and knocks him down. Cuscuity, the last man remaining for G2 Esports. But boy, oh boy, Splyce looked good in round 1. It's a 2-0 over the top dogs. Here are the roar of Drogos.
And they're just coming through. Fire's already stoked. Everything's ready for them. They're still riding the high of SK losing the other day. And it's honestly on the back of Shadow. Shadow is finding a ton of beautiful shots, beautiful fire spits, beautiful ult hits, where he's able to apply this pressure. And that follow the scent, not even running it at 5. He's got the Masterful 5 instead. Looking more for his fire spit cooldown, trying to get it up and off cooldown as fast as possible.
And it's really not Masterful 5 that he's trading out for, although that some people will run that at a lower level. It's the Propel. We haven't seen a ton of Propel in these Drogos loadouts lately. It's a card that was always there in Drogos, but he had a couple of thruster changes, and it actually has become more of like just a flavor. How do you feel with it, especially after all the changes where 5 points got introduced in the time that will not be named? Kind of like our own little Voldemort there. And later part of last year. Altitude 2 is actually a great card, a lot of value, and allows you to get a little bit more value once you do things like Shadow, which is find kills, and he seems to be finding plenty of them. Pyre Strike is enough to keep Doseps nice and healed up. Vex activates the Inflame. Is it going to be enough to get this dragon out of the skies? Gbunny still alive, but somehow Shadow alive as well.
They put the pressure, they got rid of Vayne, that's going to make a big difference. Aspect actually dashes out, and that Hexafire is not going to connect anywhere near as much as you would hope if you are a G2 fan, so you're going to see Doseps fall back, but he gains the ground. That's what they needed because they have comeback mechanic.
Yeah.
They are golden right now. That is 78% picked up. But the pressure's back on from Splyce, and these Rockets, they're going for long range and
they
still
really
almost hitting.
I know, and you know, what was interesting is he missed his first fire spit, but because the fire spit's so slow, and that got normalized. There used to be a card, lung capacity, that actually increased that speed. What was so interesting is he almost hit his fire spit after missing with his second rocket, because his rocket speed got increased as the fire spit got decreased. So really interesting mechanic that almost played in there. It's one of the, I think, more unique ones in Paladins. Gbunny getting pressured out by Cuss Cutie, who's yet to find his same level of tankiness that he's had against the Splyce roster, as we saw earlier in the week versus SK, and 78% to 78%. This is where Inara thrives.
Being able to just hold down the bunker, keep alive, and of course there on cue is the heal from Furia. Cuss is almost immortal, even though he doesn't actually have to worry about it. The healing that gets focused onto him keeps him up, and of course he's Inara, which makes her a healing sponge. And if Doseps, the rest of the team, can keep this amount of pressure on, especially once Evil Eye is back, I expect that to start pushing down, maybe burning Splyce just a little bit.
And this is really, really amazing management. He's looking to find its Aspect, and he does, but Ricotta still alive, and Gbunny full health. That is not what you want to see, even against a Furia and Evil Eye on the Victor. And there it is. It's the Inflame, but it is a day late, and it is $1 short, ladies and gentlemen. If only he had the 20s I was throwing at Gore earlier on, because this is a 3-0, and this is going the way of Splyce, and Gbunny is going to make it out alive. Oh my God.
All right, for a second I want to turn back time. The middle of summer split, and we sit down for an Esports Weekly. I give you the hot take that one day Splyce is going to be up 3-0 against G2. You laugh at me, and I lose my job the next day.
And I lose my job.
I am not here anymore from that kind of analysis, from that level. But this team right now, the work they put in, the changes that have happened through this org, but this team specifically, I'm actually a big fan of them, not necessarily because of them being spliced, but because of how long they've stuck together, what they were able to do through the PGS before they were in the PPL, and what they've accomplished since they joined up. They are the first Splyce roster to get a win, to get 2 wins, and now they are the first Splyce roster, I think, to ever find themselves in a comfortable spot against the top dog of G2.
I mean, this is Cuss is doing his best to outplay. The problem is he uses a seismic crash just to get not knocked off the ledge. They find a couple of kills, G2 Esports pros, so they'll take advantage of that as best as possible, but you have to say that the credit, a right click on a cooldown that's just easily gotten back for an entire ult, and now they've got a minute and 10 seconds left. G2 Esports and the Inara, only 20%. Splyce are here, they're back.
This is a similar kind of defense, I would say, overall to the last. Doseps going to be out of position now. Ricotta going to take the boxing match, and right now it's winning. He stood on his head for a little bit, but you can't Goomba Stomp this. Shadow cleans him up to make sure that his teammate stays alive.
He might have thought he was playing a different game core. Somebody needed to tell him. It's not often we could say Doseps maybe gets it mixed up. Veterans, classy players, great men all across the board, but man, oh man, Ricotta's playing like something else, isn't he? 14 streak, disengaged, sends Evil Eye off the map. 30 seconds left. That shield is escorting that payload, and so is the rest of Splyce. They've got a man advantage. Can they turn it into something else? Score.
Now they're pushing, they're coming through. Cuss
And
going down is
Flame.
such a big change.
Barrage.
That grenade, the barrage not gonna find too much off of it, except for Evil Eye's cooldown.
Oh my God!
Where'd they go? G2, what are you doing?
They
Where's the
disappeared.
payload?
they left. I don't know how. Did they all die instantly? That was just ridiculous. It was all happening. We're watching Evil Eye's perspective. The barrage comes down. Vayne gets deleted. But guess who's standing there? It's Gbunny. That shoulder bash, that battering ram decision might have actually won Splyce the game. There was no counter for it. Ashe just lived and lived and lived without having the Solar Blessing on her side.
I'm going to go ahead and give credit to Splyce, something relatively big that I think is important. They're the one team so far. I mean, SK goes up 3-0 at one point against G2 on this map. They go 3-1. SK lose that game. Splyce manages to take that lead, hold that lead, and Shadow, I'm going to give a lot of credit to him. Ricotta, lot of the kills, the damage, a lot that they applied. But like you said, Gbunny literally never died. Well, maybe not literally.
Yeah, maybe not literally. We'll see in a second as they go to the next page, but he died 6 times. It just was the amount of value that he got, and maybe you can go to that one little moment where he gets the seismic crash from Inara. Maybe that's the thing that stalls him out. Maybe that's the thing that shuts this down. Shadow was incredible. Ricotta, incredible as well. There's really not much you can say when you have carries who are basically a 3 to 5 KDA on a decent map for them.
We don't get to talk about it a lot, but at the tail end, there was credit differential coming down. You see the net worth of the players, and the economy was just so heavily in favor of Splyce, partially because the capture points, but, I mean, even the best player on G2 was sitting about 300 credits behind.
Yeah.
And it just shows that is just a perfect example of how much control they had. I think the widest gap was about a full 1,000 credits.
I mean, there were so many different factors from Splyce. They played so well, and it was Gbunny, it was Shadow, it was Ricotta. You know, Flame flexing onto the Leon was interesting because maybe, you know, we've seen Ricotta play that, and maybe that just opened up the Cassie for him, and that was so consistent for the members of Splyce. We've often seen Ricotta go for the Kinessas here, and like little moments like that where, you know, he's about to find Ricotta, he's actually on top of him trying to go for the Goomba Stomp, but then Shadow cleans it up. It was the perfect yin and yang. Some of these plays were just beautiful to see, man.
And that turn, I think is the one that really solidifies it. Double kill, I want to say, is not too out of the ordinary. He just gets one off a combustible shot, one off of a dragon punch. But it's just the casual turn rocket, and he gets a kill. Walks away like it's nothing. Feels real good for
Virtus Pro take a game off of Fnatic to start. Splyce take a game off of G2. What a week of the PPL. Frozen Guard here, map number 2. Probably a little less likely to see the Drogos have the same impact.
Yeah.
Less room to fly and be involved. Ascension Peak, very good map in general if you can manage the Drogos and there aren't too many counters on it. I think that was also what was nice. It was really Evil Eye and that job to deal with the Drogos, and they were able to avoid it. They were able to apply pressure with Gbunny. He stayed alive long enough to give him room. And it's going to be the Inara prioritized yet again for Cuss, Doe, and the boys of G2.
G2 did take one of my thought processes right out of my head for the bans, which was Splyce has Ricotta. Kinessa's really good on this map. Do you want to let them have it, or are you going to try and play around it? They're just going to ban it to make sure they don't have to deal with it, showing exactly how important Inara can be, though. First pick, as well as leaving Furia, Maldamba both available for that. Willow could actually showcase a little bit more skill, I think, on this map than what we normally see out of a Drogos.
And I'm really curious if we're going to see the Mother's Grace again, or if we will, just to shut down the potential of a battering ram Ashe, see the Treacherous Ground. It's not horrible on this map. It allows Inara to be a little more aggressive. I think Ghostix probably is a little bit more aggressive in general, or has those champions where he can maximize his ability to succeed as a damage carry as well as a frontline and flex player. But the Strix, something that I think G2 Esports felt they would be able to deal with. That's why they left it unbanned and unpicked. And there's the Ying to round out the squad. Only one more pick for Splyce. Will they go Drogos here? Will they go Willow? It's going to be the Tyra.
I can appreciate that, but only because I think it gives a lot of point control. It's one of those things Willow does. I mean, they do it in different ways, but they both accomplish kind of the same task, which is just control the point, control the objective. And if you can throw a firebomb onto an Inara, yes, she's going to have a lot of healing, but you are going to get a little bit of anti-heal out of it. It's not going to be the same as the dead zone, but it's a lot of damage. That's the thing people will underestimate. You can't stand in that fire for long, if at all, even as an Inara, because you will just take too much. It will topple you, especially if we see something like Burn Monster, but I highly doubt they're going to make that switch. It feels like a hunting party.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a guaranteed hunting party here, and I just wonder if Doseps will make any adjustments. And it's not even Doseps. It's Doseps taking the Cassie away. What does this say for Flame? What does this say that happened in the comms? You know, off of the Leon, that given to Evil Eyes. This is just the draft. I mean, there's a lot of moments where you could have seen Doseps take the Ruckus. He could have taken the Inara. Doseps has said, let me take the Cassie. I think that is something that speaks volumes in my mind.
Curious to see how this is going to play out now. He's going to be able to find a little bit more. We've seen Doseps Cassie a lot in the past, and Shadow is going to be the first one to fall. Splyce, even if, honestly, if this goes the way this is G2's map, they obviously know what they're trying to think about coming into this.
Oh, that just looked good, Gore. I'm sorry, that just looked good. He did the whole gymnastics backflip out of the shoulder bash. G2 Esports and Doseps on the reins of the Cassie this time around. It's styling.
It's just a complete flip, essentially, of what was going on during the last map. Depends on Splyce if they can come back. But Frozen Guard is not a forgiving map. I feel like Ascension Peak, even though it isn't the easiest one to turn back on to get back to the point, you at least have a little bit of a chance. The map lends itself to you. Frozen Guard, you have like 2 entrances and one of them this wide open road. It's not going to be the easiest to get in and actually have an impact.
Wow, talk about dominance. Now I know why Doseps wanted Cassie. And this is so G2. I mean, this is the most G2 response I think I could have ever seen, because not only are they relatively good on Frozen Guard, this is a map that even in their history, big moments have happened and they've shown up for them. I remember casting one of Cuss Cutie's most incredible stun, mid-air double stuns here, and just freaking out myself. But I do think that, you know, Doseps taking this Cassie has really given maybe just a little bit of confidence to this roster, but also maybe allowed Flame to have some more confidence in himself, saying, I really just have to be Inara. You know, I don't have to do anything crazy. I just got to be Inara, and maybe that'll settle me.
And that's actually a good way to look at this as a refresher instead of, oh man, were you so bad that we had to take you off? Instead, look, if you had a performance that was lackluster, if you're getting in your own head, which is something you said Kyle has said Flame will do,
right, go
play Inara.
Right.
Just get a reset game. Next game we can put you on Andrew or whatever happens to be good for the map, but just relax.
And you know what? The thing about G2 is they are willing to roster swap. And I think this is such an undervalued quality of a team. When you see something go wrong and you say, let's just make a change. Here's what I feel like doing. And we don't see it enough in Europe. Some of these teams that struggle, like I wish this would be a thing that happened with Mouse Sports when Alex was having a rough game, and just say, hey, you know what? Take the brakes off. Just like get used to playing against like Bugsy. Just get used to that. Like be on a simple champ. Like just get used to that. I'll pilot this thing because I know a little bit more about what to expect, and then you'll switch in next game. Like let's just get some rhythm, and that is something that G2 Esports are showing perfectly here. How to take the momentum away from Splyce and get it back themselves.
So a completely deathless round for G2. As well as the fact that they completed a 2-0 on Frozen Guard in 3 minutes here.
What a response.
It is not just a response. This is a smackdown for Splyce. You get your hopes up. I had my hopes up, but this is definitely G2 just being able to say that they are here to stay.
Man, Doseps is really going over here and just saying, come at me, man. And Flame and the rest of them buy a little bit of time. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's also Evil Eye who is on this Leon, and maybe Evil Eye's just having himself a fantastic day on Leon. 12 streak for him. And when Leon is hitting and firing and staying alive all game long, that's just, oh, man. That's a beautiful thing to see. They let the shoulder bash happen to be able to know that she will be right in front of line of sight to finish him off with a Grace Valor combo. It's just clinical. This is G2 Esports literally running a clinic on how to win in under 6 minutes on Frozen Guard.
And we were talking about how G2 in the summer would be able to kind of play around with Splyce. I was actually going to say, Cuss, you ruined it immediately. That their goal at this point, maybe the secondary goal outside of win, is just don't die the entirety of the game. Cuss going to lose his streak right there and lose it for G2. If that was a bonus challenge, it would be completely failed. But it doesn't really matter because they're up 3-0. They still have a 13 streak, an 8 streak, a 10 streak, and a 12 streak, all burning for 4 of their 5 members, whereas Splyce have literally found 1 kill this whole game.
And I think Splyce at this point, back to the drawing board.
Yep. Be happy you got game number 1.
And that's what's so weird about it, right? That is really what is so weird, I think, about Splyce going back to the drawing board here as we see one of our resident native casters, or at least back in the day, Dry Bear Rory, running around in our skill shot offices. One other thing about Splyce taking just this this little break is that, you know, you can just say, this game, was this really a game? Did we really lose? Like, it was just so fast. Like, brush it off, guys. It's different when it goes 3-3 and you're like, we already had the 1-0. It's 3-3. And we almost won, but we made a mistake. That's the one that I think hurts you more in terms of your morale.
This is a this was their 6-minute break. This is a bathroom break, snack break. They're coming back in. They just wanted to play a best of 3 at the end of the day, and so that's what G2 is going to give them: is nullify those first 2 games, pretend they didn't happen, or maybe if you're Splyce, just pretend the second one didn't happen. But for some reason, your first win wasn't credited to your score. You just got to play a best of 3 now.
I mean, that was a response. I think a 4-0 in basically, what, under 7 minutes?
That was a bop. That was...
Okay.
Like, if we went out and we were playing basketball,
Yeah.
right, and you're going easy on me to make me feel like I actually have a chance, and
That's
then, like,
right.
I get a goal, and I come up, and I'm just like, what?
What?
And then the next 20 minutes of my life would be those 6 minutes.
That's
Just
a
constant,
great
just
analogy.
everything being thrown at me.
Great analogy.
Or over me.
So 4 members out of the 5 of G2 Esports did not die at all for the duration of that game.
Oof.
That's a big level of dominance G2 Esports displayed. It was not just, hey, we're tied in the set. They wanted to send a message to say that game 1 shouldn't have happened, and it won't happen from here on out. I know exactly what these guys are thinking. So Splyce may be going back to the drawing board, but they might go back to their classroom and realize that the drawing board, the desk, the chairs, and the pens have all been stolen from out under them. And there's a little bit of like a flash of a G2 banner running outside the hallway, giggling with some stolen goods.
And lo and behold, we go to Ice Mines now. You get a 4-0, you get a 4-0, and then now your confidence is shaking a little bit. We're like, where can we absolutely try to take a team to 3-3? Ice Mines is the other one. Also very similar, I would say, in some aspects to Ascension Peak.
Yeah.
Different in a lot of others. This one is one of the ones that we've actually, after talking to several players, they say that they draft really for the 3-3 point fight. They draft for the end of the game. They don't really draft for the push. They don't really draft for anything. They're thinking it's always going to be even at the end. How do we win that last fight?
And I feel like G2 Esports are going to say, we don't want you to get Drogos, if at all possible. We don't want you to get anything that makes us feel like you can carry a game better than us.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to continue to put Dosips and Evil Eye in positions to be flexible on damage. I think Flame will, without the Inara, maybe be the odd man out flex here for at least the remainder of the set or until G2 Esports go ahead. And now this looks like maybe this will be where Dosips flexing to give Flame a standard Cassie pick.
Going for their frontline's last pip, going to be coming through, something
Yeah.
that is very historically G2, but he has a lot of flexibility now. And I'm curious to see what they will go. I don't expect anything too crazy from him, but you never really know with G2.
See, they're always trying to bait me when they put the Willow in first because they're like, hurry up, and then they fake the Koga, but they don't lock in the Koga. Oh, all right, now we're in. Now we're in here. Splyce going for it. And I guess, you know, this is one of those where you have to wait and see it. So that will be like a Dosips or a Cuss pip. It's not a main healer Vex pip, which could have happened, but Vex will most likely be on that Fury. And then if I was going to make my call, I would think that this is a Cuss Cutie on the pip, playing something like Catalyst, unless they're getting real wonky and going like a combat medic nobody's ever seen, which I would say you have some serious belief, my friends.
I will say, in my mind, what I would see is something very similar to the past, where we would mention Tyra, right? Phoenix wouldn't let anyone have Tyra, but it's feasible for Phoenix to like creatives play Tyra because he recognizes it. There is no doubt in my mind that Cuss is the best pip on this team.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yes, other players can bring it in. Evil Eye can look great on it, but I feel like no matter what, when you have someone who's as nuanced as Pip, it's better to give it to the guy that knows it like the back of his hand. He's going to be able to play this like he was playing it yesterday, which he probably was.
I agree. You see Flame Effect still rotating on the front line. Dosips is taking the reins of the damage roll and saying that I will play the Cassie this time around. It worked out, and I honestly would be like, why wouldn't you? Really smart hold here. Although the Dead Zone's going to shut down some of the healing. I mean, they have vantage points onto everything. And I think this is a great spot for G2 Esports to see things. They're actually trying to get up on this catwalk and then apply the pressure themselves. And I think Shadow finding the kill on the Flame is what maybe is going to be the litmus test for how well he can do, how G2's lineup will hold up against Rakata's pressure. The Master of Arms, Koga, really pushing them back. But again, a very Fnatic Na'Vi style thing where they just fall back. They lose 2, but they don't lose any more until Gbunny presses the issue and finally finds Vex.
And you can see Rakata, I was honestly, I want to say, a little bit more fortunate for G2 to be able to get out of his sights for just a little bit, but the pressure is going to be on. Gbunny's pushing him out. But if he goes down, that reopens this. Torvald's great, but he can only hold the point for so long by himself. He needs a little bit more aggression from the rest of his team. There goes Shadow, but Flame, Evil Eye both getting taken down in the process.
Yeah, I mean, Rakata is a very good player. You're going to see those headshots start to flow from him as well. It's a really strong round 1, and here it is. Vex and the rest. And that's just Doseps trying to make the hero play. If he gets its aspect, maybe, but he's got to manage the situation really well. I don't know if it's even possible statistically, and it turns out it's not. Splyce is going to take objective number 1 here on Ice Mines, but as you said, Gore, this game usually goes quite a while.
Yeah, I don't think this will be telling. Even if Splyce can get this push, I'm not sure it's going to be a big tell until the second point as to how we can expect the game to be going. Although there was one good example of something we mention quite often. We talk about hitboxes, headboxes in this game sometimes. Pip and Barrick are the ones that come up the most, and I think Koga is going to be enjoying this game thoroughly because they both have relatively big heads when it comes down to trying to find headshots. All of those headshots from the last round was onto that Pip, and I feel like we're going to end up seeing a lot more of that. But this is where I think Koga might not be as strong, where it's just very linear. There's only one, maybe a side path to go through, but there's not a lot of places for you to hide, not a lot of cover for you to peek through, so you have to play it carefully. Yeah,
and a big moment here from Splyce, and I think Gbunny leads the charge. And after having a rather amazing game on the Ashe, and then a rather, obviously, underwhelming game as, Rakata joins us on top fails of the week as he has a quadra kill lined up and just falls short.
That hurts. Like that hurts the soul.
That hurts the soul.
I gotta take a little bit of time for that. Like that is actually just a. I mean, press F to pay respects. That is the worst.
Press F to pay respects.
Kind of ult you can have. And like you said, I mean, that's a quadra kill. Like that is an easy team wipe. Maybe not full wipe, but like you get a couple kills out of that, if not a couple more. And well, those ice blocks look real nice, at least with this camera at that angle.
You might even call them nice blocks. That's for you, Vox.
That's when we put smiley faces on them.
Yeah. Listen, you got to give your, daily little pun just to keep the Europeans happy.
I got mine with a con pun earlier. Got it in already.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what they say?
You're the big dog, huh?
A pun a day.
Whoa.
30 seconds
Keeps
Vox from yelling at you on Twitter.
Keeps Vox G-chats away. I hear that. I got that too. I'm actually very, very interested at the little details in this set because G2 Esports are a team that plays off of momentum, and they're a team that plays off of ego and confidence, and they're a team very much so that really responds to the direction of their leadership, whether it's Doseps, whether it's Cusscutie. Wardube used to be a huge core of that roster, and I think Evil Eye, too, at this point has started to be a guy that can galvanize the troops. But when I see these sprays, it just tells so much of the tale of how Cusscutie is feeling about their ability to dominate this set still. Even though it may not look like it or it may look like a tie, he still feels like what was going to happen right after that replay, right before that replay ended, it is really the tale of the story here between G2 and Splyce.
And after watching it back, that I have no doubt in my mind. That was a quadra kill. Like, that was very easy. I think he would have, I can't remember if he got credit for the kill on Cuss, but it would have essentially been a Penta all picked up for Rakata right there, except for the fact that he just happened to slip. And that's just one of those awkward moments. It's a test of how well do you know the map. And honestly, how much pressure do you think you can truly apply to G2 in a corner like that? Because their presence alone is enough to kind of want to push you back.
Absolutely. Rakata here working with one of the healer over time kind of character champions in Maldamba. Man, they are really targeting flame effects, aren't they? Here is that little bit of vulnerability. Evil Eye will take advantage of that, but it is not working out Rakata in its aspect. And now Rakata for another one are absolutely cutting through G2 Esports. The zone is going to have to be effective. Cusscutie doesn't get a chance to even use, I believe, his ultimate as G2 Esports are wiped. right from the beginning.
Point control so far has been handedly in favor of Splyce. Now if they get a better zone than they did last time, they're going to be feeling it. And a lot of good dismounts early on. That's the big difference. That's the killer on Ice Mines, is if you can get taken off your mount before you even get halfway there, there's going to be a hyper beam even to try and buy that space. That 99 should be 100.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. The only thing I could have seen, truly, is Doseps using Scout and getting CC immunity and movement speed and maybe dodge rolling in there, just saying, I'm just going to touch, right? Because maybe you have a morale boost. I'm not sure if he's actually running morale boost. We could take a look at the items and see if he's going for that or if he's going for Chrono. He's just sticking with Cauterize at the moment. Feels like he's got everything he needs as far as the utility tree for now. And they have not one objective, so that is more of a deficit that they're in the rest of Splyce. But yeah, I mean, that was the only way I could see that happening. It's been interesting, but Splyce say, whatever you think, G2, we're winning these objectives. You got to do something about it or this is our game.
Using the Fae Flight as well to get a lot of the pressure that they had lost back, at least to get back to the payload first.
Yeah.
Maybe to pick up some kills secondary. Gus is going to go down. They're going to get that pressure that they really want to apply onto G2. And as long as they keep them retreating, you keep them staggered backwards, they're always falling back. You're going to be able to get a couple kills. They're going to get a reset on the side of G2, but I mean, you're picking them apart.
Yeah, and I love Shadow here. I mean, he's been really impressive for me on the Willow. He's been really clinical. And Vayne and Ricotta have been working so well together off of the Torvald-Koa combination. This is what I like. You don't have to go for, we're seeing this like Koga thing where everyone's like, okay, we're going to pick Khan and Genos, and well, not Genos, but Tyra. And we're going to also pick like Torvald. And then we're going to pick the Koga because you'll have 8 forms of damage amp. It's like, nah, man, just go Torvald Koga. Go Genos Koga. Go Khan Koga. Just one, I think, is enough. And get a balanced lineup that can win elsewhere. And that's what they're doing. They're winning elsewhere, Gore. Flame has had 0 presence on the objective with this barrier.
Being able to get the pressure right here, it's going to be a full push. That, I think, is what can potentially seal the deal. Comeback mechanic does play a big role, so Splyce is going to have to pay attention to how they start this round. But like you were saying, and one of the things we've seen with Koga specifically, it was mentioned yesterday, we mentioned it earlier while we were looking at some Koga gameplay, but that Bugsy had said part of the reason Koga isn't necessarily as competitively viable as he could be is just because after his ult, there's this post-fire time. And that is not uncommon, but that 2,000 health, it disappears real fast in that time that you are not able to do anything, but you are vulnerable. That's where Vayne comes in. That's where those bubbles make a big difference. You just pop it onto him. Say, look, that 2,000 damage that you're going to take is all in my shield instead. Your health bar is still full. Keep going, buddy.
I agree. I completely agree. And you see Ricotta's had the game that he was hoping he would have on this Koga. 17-3. Top damage by a mile. And when a Willow or a Drogos is matching Koga in terms of effectiveness or killing blows or just overall efficacy on the battlefield, they're going to be top damage. Koga is not this burst kind of insane damage champion, but the way that Ricotta has been allowed to run free with this Torvald enabling him has put him well ahead. And that is something to be scared of, especially with the way Splyce have operated this for what appears like one of their first times ever in a high situation, high stakes game. Evil Eye going for the Dragon Punch, but he can't find anything for him.
Going to be able to get a little bit of damage onto Vayne. Vayne actually has to fall back, but Ricotta picks up Doseps. Those are the kills that are going to make the big difference because that starts the roll. Flame, yeah, Dome Shield, cool, on the point. It feels great, except your team is still dying around you, and that's going to be the big issue right now. Ricotta getting aggressive, Shadow getting aggressive, and they are in the face of G2 Esports.
That was huge, man. The Inflame allows Barrick to shoot for 728, but unfortunately, all of those resources used, and it's still Flame who is going to go down. A spray from Ricotta. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be it unless G2 Esports can get back. There are no ultimates on the board for them or for either team. It's just a matter of raw will, outplay, and hitting your shots.
Look for dismounts. Vayne going down. That's going to be big, but he did get a lot of dismounts before he ends up dying, but that's still going to give him a chance. 99%, but they're going to get knocked off, and that opens the door for G2.
It's overtime, so what is going to happen here? Doseps has to go big or go home. Johnny Tsunami this, baby, and it looks like he's at least bought time. Gbunny has fallen back to protect Ricotta, but that's exactly what G2 needed to stabilize, and now Ricotta coming into a Barrack who's set up, who's established, about to get a turret there. Doseps is in the back line, and the objective is something that Splyce has to worry about.
The 99% is going to play in their favor. Can they get a couple kills? Gbunny and Flame trading out right there. Ricotta looking to get aggressive. Almost available for him, but Evil Eye gets 2 before he falls. I'm still looking over towards Ricotta. Can he make this for this team?
He's got to get out, and he weightlesses away, goes to the high ground. This should be G2's point. He's able to go ahead and turn it around. Cuss Cutie again takes advantage of Ricotta just going for the right play, but the slightly wrong execution. Somehow G2 Esports might have just turned this back around, but that's a big kill onto Cuss. It's just Gbunny who falls right after. What a smorgasbord of a fight here, and it's Vex who turns the tide and eventually just says, you know what, damn it, we're gonna win this. Triple kill, and that's the Furia for you. Hits the spray as well. I know who the Dragon called.
Pressure being applied throughout G2 that entire time is, I think, what makes Ricotta have that. I'm just gonna call it lackluster ult. It comes through, it doesn't hit anybody. And I think it's just because pressure's on. You have to go in, you have to make this performance, right? You have to step up. But unfortunately, that is where it all starts to fall apart, and you can feel that the Fae Flight, the Dread Serpent, all coming through. Not able to find a lot. Of course, there's not much you can do when Furia gets a triple kill. So you're going to have to play this a little bit more carefully. If G2 can push this, it's a tie game, and honestly, I don't know if Splyce are going to be able to come back.
I mean, Ricotta finally dies, and you're talking about a guy who's 17-3. He's been alive almost the entire game, and look at it again, finding kills. He has been just enabled by this Torvald, and he has been so hard to deal with this style, with the Wind's Embrace, Master of Arms, and no one has had a really good answer for him. Evil Eye probably needs to be the one who shows up a little bit more consistently to deal with that, but it's easier said than done. That's Gbunny. That's at least one of the big problems.
Now Vayne looking to be a next big chunk off.
That's another.
That takes away, the problem that is really facilitating this Koga. Koga isn't anywhere near as big an issue if it weren't for the fact that his health bar always seems to be perpetually about 2,000 health bigger than it really is. And that has just been Ricotta not only showing his effectiveness, but Vayne making sure that Ricotta can get this done. This is all being enabled from this backline aspect, as well as Vayne making sure to keep everyone alive.
Nice
but G2
shot.
finally being able to start picking it apart just piece by piece.
Shots are a lot harder to hit than they look from Evil Eye. The timing of them and the slight angle adjustment means that just it's so easy to make one small maneuver and not connect, but he's doing it. It's very difficult for G2 Esports to push this, especially since their front line is not very strong. They don't have much peel, and Koga just kind of for free gets into the back line, especially when he's enabled by the Torvald. 23 seconds left. You would almost assume in most Ice Mines games that this is going to at least another round
15 seconds remaining.
with the same score, 3-2, but G2 Esports pulled it back in this fight to keep the game going, and they might just be able to pull it back here.
Gbunny full back health as he needs. Going to be able to get aggressive. That's going to be a good fireball to make sure. Just a little bit of pressure onto G2. Overtime going to start up, but the question is whether or not overtime is going to make the big difference. No one's looking at the payload right now. They're looking for the kills.
Yeah, they didn't look underneath them. They looked above. If Evil Eye stays alive, that would have been a big, big deal, because then that means Ricotta's not doing this to Vex, and it means Evil Eye's doing that to all of the backline damage dealers. Another spray from Vex. Toxic, kid.
He's on a 9 streak. He got a triple kill that pretty much helped win that round for him.
I'm kidding.
I'll give him the spray, at least for a little bit. Plus, I mean, at this point, you got to do something to make Ricotta have at least some doubts in his gameplay. He's 27-5. You got to trip this guy up. He is 96K. He's still 4K ahead of Willow right now. And again, it's all being facilitated. Like, this guy's health bar is just perpetually twice of its size.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, can we go back to those KDAs? Look at this. 27-5. Willow is 7-6. Okay, now 18 eliminations, right? But that's still a far cry away from how many kills Ricotta's contributed to and had on his own. And Willow is still basically 4,000 damage, like next to Koga. Like, Koga is not a damage like that. He's not going to just have 180,000 damage each game. If you get that number with Koga, that's an insane game. What he is, though, is he's consistent damage, and that is what's so important. And if he's consistent and he's ever present and he has time to go into the back line, you're going to see an opportunity for him to succeed. Here's the deal, though. The Inflame, it gives Dosips a little bit of a run for his money to find Gbunny, and he will. This is going to work out in G2 Esports' favor, and it's Shadow going into the Fae Flight in response, but the Dragon Punch takes the fairy out of the skies, ends the fairy tale, but Ricotta's right there to respond.
Ricotta not going to be getting anywhere near as much healing, and this is the big problem. Vex, on the other hand, is making sure every single person is not only full, topped off, they get a shield, maybe even a little bit just on the side to make sure they stay alive, well, happy. And if they can get rid of him, I think that opens up a lot more. And Hyper Beam looking to try and push it off, but Flame just dashes right back onto the point. He's going to be able to control it.
I don't know if I like that. I mean, you might want to just give it up. What ground are you keeping? I think he just didn't want to fall off the map. And that just ended up saying, might as well go to the point here. Here's Ricotta, and he's isolated, and Vex finds Ricotta. They cannot take down the Furia, and that is the difference. Ladies and gentlemen, 54% and counting. Dosips with the double in G2 Esports. Uh-oh, put Splyce in some trouble. 75%. This game's about to be tied, and G2 will have a chance to win.
I'm going to have to give more credit, I think, to Vex than anybody else on G2, but G2 is playing this well. They are recognizing the scenario. They're being able to play it. But Vex, he's on a 13 streak. He is finding kills that admittedly should not be his kills, but he's the one picking them up anyway. The Inflame, honestly, it felt like it was more for him than anybody else on the team.
And it might have been.
Yeah,
Honestly,
keep him alive, give him that damage.
It is a choice you have to make. It's a moment of damage and CC immunity for the Furia. Right afterwards, you're vulnerable, and no one else gets that damage immunity and CC immunity but her. But the moment the Pyre overtakes her soul and uses her for its bidding, well, that's when she's safe. So you cannot attack, and there was a little bit of an aggression at that moment, and maybe Vex just knowing how this would have played out if he hadn't decided, hey, I'd better try to risk it for something great than just to stand back and watch my fate be told for me. Dosip's here firing away on a Ricotta. Look at the bubbles. They're so constant. They got to get rid of Vayne if they have a chance.
This payload's starting to knock on the door, though. It's past that small arch, but it's in this awkward area, the nice open bowl that is the spawn point, the capture point, I guess, for the payload. But the spawn point here for Splyce, respawn proximity is something we talk about, but there's a couple maps, and Ice Mines is one of them, where you walk out the door and the fight is right there if the payload is coming in. You are going to be able to drop right onto G2. And so they not only have to regroup, they have to figure out how to approach this without giving that too much of an advantage. It's going to be big staggers. You're going to be looking for maybe someone who can hold them back, maybe a dome shield towards the tail end that makes people not want to jump onto the payload. And that's at 83%, so maybe Flame will be able to make that big difference at the tail end.
Yeah, I mean, this is a definite difficult spot, and look at this. G2 Esports make a smart call, man. They get the Inflame. Then they use the Evil Mojo. Nobody was expecting that. The movement speed, the damage, they're making a move. Inflame can charge back up, and maybe Cuss believes that he and his team have enough in the tank to be able to juice through, but 33 seconds remain, and it does feel like this was all in vain as we see Vex 30 unable to deal with what Shadow is bringing to the table. That will be the healer going. That will be a triple kill, and that just might be a quadra for the man. That is, oh boy, Shadow. No one casting a shadow over his play today.
They need this dismount. Cuss is in a pretty good spot. I don't think he's going to be able to get there. 10 seconds left. It'd be real awkward to jump in on your own. He would definitely die, but he'd get the timer. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the call from G2. Instead, taking it 3-3 in the last one, 19 minutes in. But I think the big trade-offs there are the amount of ults used. It was 2 big ults coming down from G2, 3 coming down from Splyce.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how much they got back after the replay in the final portions of that round. Willow, I mean, with a quadra kill, it's probably going to be the one higher up, but it's still only 20%.
And now, look at that. 39-14 for Ricotta, 16-20 for Shadow. They have been dominating in a major, major way here. But G2 Esports, like against SK, where Invocal was on Androxus going like 31-9, G2 Esports are still in this game with a chance to win.
Again, beginning fight. G2 recognizes how aggressive Splyce wants to be, and Splyce, they don't really have another option. They can try to hold back, but that gives a lot of ground to G2, and that lets Barrick set up, that lets Pip set up, that lets Cassie just be happy. So they're going to have to figure out how to get rid of, admittedly, I think they should go to Vex first, and then start looking at the rest.
Oh, wow, the Pyre Strike catches him. Are you kidding me? That man just leaned back after the stun, and hopefully it doesn't last too long, and he's able to get out alive. Cuscuity is so low, and the Immortal keeping Gbunny in the squad healthy. But what will that mean? Dosips has to go in, and Vex is keeping him alive. Dragon Punch there. It's a 3-man trade, all in the favor of G2 Esports. It's Aspect staggered out, and so is Shadow. Oh, they're waiting because they know they might have just won the big prize at the end of it. Gore, G2, have they come back?
They're able to hold on for now. Good dismounts are going to make the big difference, and this is G2. Again, their composition is much more prone to the defense, I think, than what we see out of Splyce, so it's going to be really risky to jump in, but Gbunny's back. Gbunny's going to be able to get aggressive, but his shield goes up. His shield comes down.
Oof, and he used his Immortal already. Cuscuity taking a little bit of pressure, but he gets healed. The Pyre Strike from Vex, I mean, that just put Ricotta on the defensive, and Ricotta is so many of the killing blows here. If he's not picking those up, that's 30 killing blows. They don't happen. So taking him out of the fight seems to be the key. Flame of X finds one. Dosips is getting the other. And Flame of X, man, fighting off against the flanker. He might have done enough. Ricotta at least able to trade out with Barrick. And it's Aspect able to find Doxips. Have they turned it around? Splyce now staggering out Vex himself. And it'll be G2 Esports time to try to climb back in this.
99 to 27. That is the number to keep in mind. The 99 is going to play a 6th man. G2
It will.
really only have to spend just a second on that point for it to matter.
Oh,
Splyce
boy.
cannot leave. They have to keep control of this area. And already mounted members of G2 are coming in. They are ready. And they're preparing their onslaught onto the point.
And look at this. They know they need flame effects. I think he's going to go for the ultimate here and try to finish him off. He is, but the bowling ball, will it be enough? No. Rocket Boots doesn't get him onto the angle, but they have to stand on the objective. That's what Cuscuity and G2 Esports have going for them. But Splyce, oh, they find a big one. And Dosips, Ricotta finds another. Is this going to be it? Splyce, they might just take the lead again over G2 Esports. It's just a dragon. And that's not enough to beat these 5 men. Splyce do it in a dramatic way. They're 2-1 up.
They did what SK did, except for the final point, which was win. And that is exactly what you needed at the tail end. And I didn't actually expect they'd be able to get back into that point. Just a couple of kills. G2 fall back maybe a little bit too fast. And I have to say, Ricotta doing well. Does finally get passed by Shadow, but still sitting up there. I mean, Evil Eye's at 136k, 123 coming out of Dosups. It was big. 36 and 10, though, is a pretty big up-to-bat KD.
51 eliminations. I mean, it's about the best flank game you could ever have, right? And I don't know if we've seen a higher one in the PPL.
I don't think we could.
35,
the way
36,
that goes, I mean,
killing blows.
how often are you
I don't
going
think
to
so.
have someone who can just kind of aim forever, shoot forever, and admittedly reposition the same way that Koga was able to during that entire game?
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed was Paladins history here. Splyce not only taking the 2nd game in this best-of-5 set off of G2, but Ricotta on the Koga wins Embrace. Embrace these bullets.
It was just clean, and I don't even think we get to see another Koga game like that for a long time. Like, that is something that Splyce and specifically Ricotta should be proud of. And that is a crowning achievement right there to be able to come through. But it's not the peak. He's still going to be able to go forward because this is also the game, remember, that he missed that ult. It feels like it's so long ago at this point. I almost forgot about it, but I still remember.
If you're going to get the top fail of the week, at least you get to get close to the top
The top plays?
Yeah, all of the top plays. 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be all Ricotta. Basically all these replays and then his fall off the map.
It's kind of like that match. We actually...
Hey, they finally used Koga's Claws.
On Monday, yeah, just for the emote. On Monday, we got a couple of fails, a couple of plays that were fun. Maybe we'll just get a nice montage from this week, from how much has just been ridiculous through Paladins.
There's nothing Ricotta can't do, it seems
Whew.
like. Splyce.
All right, so we turn back
Would you
time.
believe it? You turn back time. And Gormizer tells me Splyce win 4-0, and then they win Game 3 after G2 Esports sweeps them 4-0.
I can hardly remember the 6 minutes we spent in Frozen Guard.
It was a time's past. And it was a beautiful time, Gore. It doesn't matter about memories. It's a feeling that we both have, and that will never leave us.
All I remember is feeling dread from the side of Splyce and elation from the side of G2, where they're just like, oh, by the way, this is how we play.
Oh, man. We spend a lot of time in this booth together.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of regret. You can hear it in his voice, realizing, man, I literally spend like half of my work week standing next to this guy, the other half standing next to a guy that I have to look up like this every time I talk to him.
Oh, Nick, I'm going to send you a chiropractic bill, I swear. It's not us. We're not the wild ones here. You're just so damn tall. Stop it. Casting with Nick be like.
I do find myself having to pop my neck a little bit more when Nick is in the room, because especially like, he will stand a little longer than I will. I'll take a seat.
You and me show up and we just like throw some pieces of paper at Nick and just cross our arms. It's like, our chiropractor bills. Pay them.
By the way.
That's your responsibility. It's your fault. I am the victim here. Nick's just being him, man. Nick will be on next set as well. I'll get my neck ready. I'll get a little warm up here.
Well, one day we'll have the envy treatment. We'll bring in some of the masseuses.
I'll get Meta Pusher back here, give me a massage while I play, while I cast. Can casters get a coach and then just get the Meta Pusher treatment?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk.
I can't think of why not.
We'll work on that. G2 Esports have worked on their draft. Let's break it down for you in a quick synopsis. Liana Willow taking the anti-heal, heavily favoring G2 Esports. But Splyce have gone for the super heals themselves and the super sustain. Damba and Inara, one of the best pairs in the business, and Khan also giving himself healing and his teammates, as well as damage amplification and CC immunity. It's going to be a tough matchup. This can go either way, and the Buck is a champion we haven't seen in a long time. Gormizer, he's been nerfed. The cards that got hit, damage reduction after the recovery, healing, amplification during the recovery, those have all changed, and yet somehow Shadow is confident enough to go to him in this closeout game.
I feel like it could potentially be a big swing. I think the big change, well, I guess it's not really a big change. I was going to say Ricotta going from Koga, who fires forever, to Vivian, who also fires forever, but for a different reason. She just has a big 80-round clip, has gone sap rounds and the wrecker, and you're looking at that to be the reason Cuss and Dosups might not recognize that they actually have shields this game. They're going to go up, they're going to come down, and Vivian has been a little bit more popular every now and then. But these are two pretty big, I want to say just offside picks for Splyce.
6% counting here. Splyce on the objective, standing out. Excuse me, that's Cuss Cutie on the objective now. Splyce were there. Cuss looks to be piling Fernando. Firing line for Gbunny. Comfortable on the con. He's had a good day. Really good day. And Splyce have just bounced back the best way possible for a young team. This is really starting to give us a glimpse of their character, and it is the ones that will not give up, that will persist till the end.
Gbunny, again, the healing you had mentioned, going to be playing a big role right here. Khan finally going to be able to get a pluck. They're looking for Dosups. They've tried so hard. Him and Cuss both low. Vayne comes in from behind for the first blood, gets rid of Dosups, gets rid of Cuss, and now those front lines aren't going to be standing on that point anymore.
And it's very Stone Keep, right? Ricotta coming in and Splyce wiping G2 Esports again. And it's just very Stone Keep. What I was going to mention is Buck able to hold down one of these channels, not just by himself, but with the con. He's just so tanky. He's so sustaining. The recovery, despite getting nerfed, is still the recovery with bulk up. It's an extra 300 health. It's an extra 1,600 as far as healing. You're still getting some value from those cards, even if you don't have them at the max level or the same level that you did before. They're still impactful, and here's the Inflame. But oh boy, Shadow's already gotten started. This party is about over.
Vayne drops down. Dosups looking like he's going to get low. He almost escapes from that one, but Gbunny going to be able to clean up the kill. Vex is low. Evil Eye Dread Serpent going to be able to come through. Clean up one, clean up two. 3 picked up there for Gbunny, as he's going to be able to hold on to this. And we always talk about the high ground for Willow here. We always talk about the high ground and how important that's going to be for Flame on this Willow. And the entire time, Ricotta's just sitting up there daring him to come try and take it from him.
I mean, this is pretty incredible, man. I am not sure how all of this is happening, what kind of protein shake Ricotta had earlier on this morning, whether he truly did stop going to the gym and sleeping, and this is just the results of his training. But Splyce, I mean, they look like G2 Esports did on Frozen Guard right now.
It's
barely
dominant.
3 minutes in.
Being able to come through, not quite as strong as it was, but a little bit of a slower start. I'm just thinking of how much this shotgun is going to hurt every single time these two are paired together. Gbunny going to be able to get a little bit of heal as well as the recovery should keep Shadow alive well. But you can see right there, the dead zone does make a difference. You can't fight just willy-nilly into a Willow. You have to be a little bit more careful.
You can't fight willy-nilly into a Willow. I think that's one of your best sayings.
That one I'm okay with. I don't mind that quote.
I'm complimenting it.
Willow.
It sounds great. And it's very Willow. Willy-nilly is kind of, you know, fairy-esque, free, fun, you know, carefree. You know, it works really well. Minute and 2 seconds. Gore couldn't figure out what to say in response to me.
No, I could not.
And that's okay. I'm starting to recognize those moments where I'm at another level than Gore as far as where I'm willing to take this conversation, and he's trying to do a favor for everyone listening and bring us back to reality. Joseph's with an overpower here, and he may just have to throw him off, and he can't. He doesn't make the decision.
A nice hook. Ancient Rage doesn't get consumed there. You hear the pop, but it doesn't actually come through. Vayne goes for the seismic crash, but it's not going to matter. Shadow goes down as well. And again, fighting in that dead zone, that's going to be probably the hardest point whenever you're trying to push, is dealing with Flame and what Flame has to offer. But G2 right now, looking solid on the defense. They just need to be able to bring this kind of pattern over to the point.
And Gbunny as well. Con, we don't talk about Fernando and why sometimes he's picked or not picked. But Khan is such a good counter to the Fernando shield because he commander's grabs, it goes through the shield, and there's nothing he can do. I wonder if he's going to get that aggressive. He's got a Willow escorting behind him, so Cutie feels his damage is enough to at least go away or force the Fernando away, but Cutie really trusting his damage in Flame, and it's going to pay off. It seems like G2 Esports have enough to hold here.
Flame being able to find 2 at the very beginning of that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Splyce are going to have to be able to find this. They don't really have enough that's going to long range kill off this Willow. Maybe Ricotta. But a lot of the issue I think I see with it is that it's not going to be the same as a sniper. It's not going to be the same as like a Leon. You're going to have to hit those shots consistently. Willow is very wily, so it's very difficult to lock her down.
You can't go willy-nilly on a wily Willow.
Point spawning in 15 seconds.
That's a fun phrase.
You're creating it yourself, Core.
That should be like the practice if you're like getting ready, the warm up for the cast.
Yeah, all right. We're gonna have you cast some Paladins now. Start with me. You can't go willy-nilly on a wild Willow.
3.
As long as you can say that 3 times fast, you're golden. You're going to be able to speak fluently throughout all of it instead of fumbling all over your words.
And that might be true, but right now the only fumble going on is just I think with G2, Splyce has come correct here. They have absolutely surprised them. They have taken the Koga. This is something we mentioned on the Discord. We talked about it. And we said, do you think G2 is going to see the Koga? You know, we thought maybe Evil Eye might throw that out, but at the end of the day, we're also saying that it was probably to the benefit of Splyce to bring out an effective Koga pick because they could catch G2 off guard. And there's nothing more catch me off guard than Ice Mines and Koga. It was the combination of the map and the pick that made it so hard for G2 to have a real answer, and that's why Splyce are in this position here. Is the Buck the catch me off guard for you in this game, or is that going to not work out?
It feels like it is the catch me off guard, and I feel like it's worked, but it's working very specifically. Like, is Buck within range of Khan's battle shout? If yes, then damage is really good. Otherwise, he just doesn't have enough pressure. Khan going down there, Vayne going down there. They do get Flame, but that's 99%. Splyce have just spent this round kind of perpetually staggered.
Yeah, it's interesting because really right now G2 Esports seem to have just stepped up their game. Cutie off of the Pip onto the Fernando. Seems to be really helping to lead the charge. Evil Eye on the Leon again, and maybe that's the key, right? I mean, G2 Esports have done extremely well whenever Evil Eye's been on Leon. Maybe he's just having that kind of day. It's not about the dragon for him.
I'm really, I want to say just upset so far this round with where Ricotta has gone. There's been just a couple of decisions where it just hasn't landed at home. And it's unfortunate because I think that is kind of make or break for this. Buck needs to be able to pop off, but he is notably going to have some deficits, some problems trying to get in and jump into someone. But on the other side, you need this Vivian to at least have some consistent damage, consistent kills. At 89% before the Sentinels come up, this might be G2 going up 3-2, but this is the hardest arch to push past. This is one of the other very, very difficult final payload fights that you can encounter.
Dinar Khan having a hard time dealing with the flexibility and damage that Doseps and Cutie are working with here on the Koa and the Fernando. Really walking a knife's edge here. He is going down. Gbunny will find that kill. Commander's grab to secure Cutie in place, and Vayne, Ricotta find themselves a couple of the 4 kills that took place. G2 Esports will have to back off, or back up if you want to combine back off with back up. I like it.
I think we can put a pin on it, leave it in the wall, maybe come back to it.
Oh, you don't like really? Okay, you could say willy-nilly Willow, and I compliment you, and I say back off, and you're like,
well, willy-nilly,
give me something better, Rain Day.
I feel like is already a little bit of a phrase. Back up, back off, both already phrases.
You're right. That was funny. I would have laughed at that in a movie. Well, see, willy-nilly's already kind of a thing. Back up is you making a thing. And Evil Eye, that's making a real big issue with Ricotta there. Doseps finds Shadow, and Evil Eye able to hold on to his life, and then he's going to get full health here. He's going to apply that anti-heal onto Vayne, but the wall comes up, and Cutie, who's going to stop? I mean, they're fighting with 1,000 health. The damage, is it worth the lack of sustain? Because, you know, sometimes it's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and there's really no way to make it out. Wait and the push stops, or attack and you die and the push stops anyway. It'll be another defense and a 2-2 heading into round 3.
Punches going either way so far. G2 are, I want to say, looking a little bit more aggressive. They're ready to jump on them. They're getting a couple more kills overall, I think, per round. But admittedly, I don't know if it's making that big of a difference. I mean, 9, 6, and 7 on Doseups is definitely making it a little easier for the team to push forward. But same thing goes for Gbunny. 8, 7, and 6 on this con. Both of them having a relatively big impact, even though the damage is swinging over. In terms of G2, I think in the grand scheme of things, but Ricotta, I don't know if he has any signals out. He's about to have them ready either way. And as long as he has that going for him, I think that could be a big difference. But it depends on the start. I think the start of the round, they got staggered last time. How can they approach it this time?
You know what I really also have been impressed with is its aspect. He's right on the money for the healing, man. And everyone is supported. Damba is not the easiest of champions. In fact, one of the most, I think, highest skill ceiling healers in the game, and one of the highest skill ceiling healers in all characters in general, not even healers. Right now, though, Evil Eye on this Leon, especially with an Inflame behind him, is just so good at getting rid of threats. Vayne going to take down the Makoa in Doseups, and maybe that's enough to give Shadow some room to turn this fight back around. Good stun.
Perfect ult combo to be able to come through. You get the stun, you get the Buck Wild. The shots are going to be there. A nice wall. So Vayne locks himself at least in a corner for a little bit while he waits on some heals. Shadow going to be back up to full. And that 48% doesn't seem too big. And if you can trace Leon right here, Evil Eye looking like he might be able to get out just because of the distance on that dash. But still, a big win for Splyce being able to push that back.
And he knows Cuss is over there. He saw him get some damage in. And look at that. I mean, he's not even having to use his own recovery. The only thing that's really hurting him here, I think he'll notice that, is he keeps doing the recovery in the dead zone, and that is just something that's so difficult. One of the also things that's great about Vex's Furia play, these Pyro Strikes are very dangerous. They're putting offensive players into bad spots. And we don't often see the Pyro Strike used that way. It's really more utility for your team healing, but he's actually making it a problem for anyone on Splyce who's not careful. Look at another stun there. Onto the backside, giving Evil Eye some room, but Ricotta and Shadow are ever present. They are here, and so is Splyce. Flame FX trying to turn it around, but the triple kill from Ricotta, who's standing on the point, wins the day.
And that's all you need. One player standing there. Of course, triple kill always helps. But all he needed was a little bit of room, a nice distraction coming down. Willow Flame was kind of locked in the cathedral in the gatehouse there, just trying to find a kill. Vayne, Gbunny go down. I genuinely thought that was going to be the end. I thought it was going to be a 3 pickup for G2, and then they were going to find a push, just perpetually staggering them away. But Ricotta, once again, steps up to the plate and hits it out of the park.
I mean, it was Shadow and Ricotta who were just ever present. That was the real thing. It's like Evil Eye had some moments, he died. Flame Effects had some moments, but he died. You know, Ricotta and Shadow were just always there. And they were making small decisions that could have hurt them, you know, recovering in the dead zone several times. I think they had a couple of positioning opportunities that went awry. But look, man, I mean, Splyce have done mostly the correct things and mostly the better things throughout the entirety of this set. And they're leading 3-2 with a chance to beat G2. He's, oh my god, he almost manifests destiny, his own destiny off the map. Boy, would that have been a way to lose.
Man, I know you're familiar with this kind of play.
He followed my how to play guide.
But I think players should recognize that's not typically how you want to go about it, although it is
it's only
difficult
for the pros
to gauge how far away that dash is really going to take you. That hook not going to be applied right there thanks to the CC immunity coming from Colin. That's going to be a kill right there. Doseups forced to shield, and I don't know if it's going to be enough if he can actually get away.
Ouch.
Tries to, almost is able to turn it around. But Shadow, now full health, shrugs it off like it's nothing.
Ouch, man. That was rough. Gore, we might have just seen the reason that G2 Esports lose again to Splyce for the first time. I'm very, very impressed with Gbunny. Throws the shield up. It's not a hard play, but in this type of pressure environment, it's a great play. And again, the little thing is going well. He finds Cuss Cutie, throws him off the map. Hits a couple of headshots on the Doseups. The shield goes up, taking it away. Oh, he's lost it. So now he has to wait till that charges again. No dead zone. He can go for the heal, but he waits. He waits for its aspect on the Maldamba, and that's just Doseups saying, I'm going to take advantage of the moment where my hook will hit you. And they burst down the con in time. Will it be Splyce pushing it through? Can Ricotta make the major plays he made last round? And no, it's not going to do it.
Vayne sitting a little bit too low. Shadow up top trying to do whatever he can. A beautiful hook once again from Doseups. And again, you're seeing plays that can make or break G2 and then plays that will bring them right back on top. And that is all coming down, I think, specifically from this turtle.
This is that was the same. Vex's Fire Strike hits them. I mean, it's well played. But hey, man, Sapper rounds Vivian. Tell me how you really feel.
Eats through the shields. Eats through their health, but that one's more to the thanks of the Sentinels than anything else. 9-9 and 12. Again, it's not spectacular slash lines like what we saw last game. It is just coming down to what kills are making that difference. 109k for the Warlord herself. Vivian has been incredible.
Yeah.
And he's already, I mean, 69% on that ult. As long as he can just keep charging it, keep charging it. Even if Ricotta dies early on, I expect him to have those Sentinels back and for it to make a pretty big difference in this fight.
3-3, and it all comes down to this for Splyce. They've been fighting for this moment for a long time, and the Inflame from Vex sets the tone. Up into the air goes Flame Effects, but will he land? It seems like he's been targeted out. Oh boy, one bullet away. And Vayne will put him in his casket. Vex 30 in the Evil Eye, though. They find a couple of kills in the process, and Doseups on the flank finishes off with the hook in style midair. Vex takes Shadow down. But for what? They've used all their resources except for the Ancient Rage and the Enlightenment from Leon. And Splyce still have a couple of tools in the tool shed.
91%, 95%. Dread Serpent and Sentinels both going to be coming online relatively soon. That 66, that 72 is not going to be as big a difference as you would think.
Uh-oh.
It depends on the pressure, and here it's going to be able to come. Rocked in the corner. There's going to be the shot, but it doesn't connect. Ricotta's still alive.
They know who they want to go for. What a Dread Serpent from its aspect. He tries to just buy time, and there's still 3 members alive. It's the healer, it's the flank, and Buck. He's damage reduced, and he is staying alive to the best of his ability. But G2 Esports, they're not going to let that one slip away. They played too well. They set the tone. They created the pace. And it was just Splyce trying to march to their beat. Unfortunately, they did not keep up in the drum line. And G2 Esports will send this one to Game 5.
One, I think, actually big difference towards the tail end. You could see Ricotta got low. Evil Eye goes for the Enlightenment, and he dips around the corner. The Dread Serpent comes through, and Ricotta keeps going around. I think in that moment, you turn around. If you have your Sentinels out, you just shred. You try to kill Evil Eye as much as you can. You maybe even start pressuring back into that corner. But it's one of those things, tail end of the moment. He has 300 health. You can't make that call like that unless you're looking at it in hindsight.
I think the hard thing to know is sometimes when you don't make the calls get made for you.
Yeah.
Right? And its aspect is responding. But I think that Vayne and Ricotta, they really try to create a pressure situation for Evil Eye. They force his Enlightenment. The Enlightenment doesn't get value as far as a kill. So he doesn't get the 50% back, so it's available at some point a few seconds later in that team fight. And he doesn't trade out, but it just doesn't end up working. Overall, you could see that this is more of a sustained battle that happened through Splyce, is just willingness to play this map in a very strong way. Shadow took a risk on the Buck. We saw a little bit of a risk on the Vivian, although relatively accepted, and we've seen even the top players use her, but still she has weaknesses, and we all know them. And I think that G2 Esports just were capable of supporting Flame Effects enough to really keep the high ground and make sure that he was able to stay alive.
Next game. So Game 5. Not something I actually expected to see coming down from G2, but I don't want to see Furia. I don't want her to be in there. I want her to get banned away. I think that Vex for G2 is the biggest problem for Splyce right now. I think that is causing them the most trouble. It's enabling people like Evil Eye. It is enabling the team. I can't count how many times Vex has, on his own, made the game-saving plays, being able to pop the Inflame at the beginning of the round. That enables people.
I get it.
I don't want Vex to have it. That's
Yes,
what I want. I
get
want
it.
Vex to, if you
I
are
was like,
Splyce, you have to get rid of it.
I was like, she's kind of good, man. You sure you don't want to see her? Like, I think people would be happy to have her. She's a good girl.
I guess if you're Splyce and you think you can play her, take her away, but don't let Vex have her.
She's not my kind of girl, man. You know, I need somebody who is going to go 50-50, you know. She seems like all-in type of chick. You know what I'm saying? No, I definitely, anybody messing with the Pyre or the Abyss is going to be taking more of your time. So you got to be very, very aware if that is a relationship you want to get into. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm just pointing out facts.
I don't
also
know how to follow it up. I'll be honest. I'll just
you
go
know
back
what?
to what I was going to say, which is the fact that Vex is using her aggressively.
No, he's using her
her
very well.
defensively. Like, it's
No.
just one of those things that it's finding so much utility that Splyce shouldn't want to mess with it. They should just leave it alone, let a baby
agree.
get banned away. and leave her behind for a little bit.
I agree. I mean, I think it's time for map 5 to see where we will be going. I mean, don't tell me it's Timber Mill.
By the way,
It's Fish Market.
I saw the rooftop, and I'm like, well,
It's Fish Market where teams go
you
to
get
lose.
Ice Mines
Yeah.
and Fish Market. If one of those maps had been Timber Mill, we could have had the trifecta.
It could have been the trifecta of horrible. Just kidding. I'm going to stop right there. I love Timber Mill and all of our maps, but I prefer other maps more than others. I'll put it that way. Fish Market is a map that I actually do enjoy, and I think that Splyce, if they wanted to get funky here, and they could pick a Koga and be successful.
I'm thinking Koga. Well, G2 do it again. I was going to say or Kinessa. Another K
smart.
that I think would have been great, but I think
that's smart.
Ricotta has made a name for himself as notably. This is something that I think we get to see more, specifically on maps like this where snipers are going to be more prevalent, but also because of people, I mean, we saw it in the past with Hecate, kind of forcing people to ban snipers against him. I think that Ricotta has kind of forced the same opinion from all these players.
Yeah.
The seas and the rivers
Makoa first pick. Splyce saw the value Dosubs had on G2 with that last game, so they're going to take that away. Now, what will G2 respond with? Seems like the Cassie, but is there a frontline prioritization here? We've seen the Fernando feel like it's gotten some value for Cuss Cutie, but oh boy, they're going to go for their damage dealers here. I think they want the Cassie to flex for the rest of their lineup. Dosubs can play it, Flame can play it, and pretty much everyone on G2 can play Androxus, but this is something that we would assume goes to Flame, and they're going to hope he carries.
As much as I hate the idea that G2 is going to be able to grab Furia here again, and it's going to look wonderful on them, probably, again, with the way Vex is playing it, I like the fact that you grab the only sniper that's available. You get the Makoa first, just because of how important it is, but Ashe, who is very high priority right now for, I think, both of these teams when it comes down to this map, and with the way Gbunny was playing it way earlier, I think it'll be even stronger.
So this is either a Do Cuss Androxus. Think about that. And like a Flame Barrack, right? Or this is Flame on Andro, and I think you're gonna put like Dosubs on the Barrack, right? And you keep Cassie on Evil Eye, and then you're flexing right now for Cuss. And that's what G2 have to decide. That's what this Cassie pick actually does really well, and I think that is what they're doing. They're flexing for Cuss here. Do they want to go the triple DPS and keep Barrack as a point tank that just does well applying damage, or do they want to go for the duo support, duo frontline, and they will. It'll be the Fernando, most likely for Cuss Cutie, and this is it. These are the lineups. How do you feel, Gore, going into this match? Who has the stronger draft?
I feel like G2 is relying real heavily on this Androxus performing, and they have quite a few players that can make that Androxus perform, but I feel like Splyce, overall, for a Fish Market draft, have a Fish Market draft. This is a good draft for the map. This is a good draft for the team.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we always call this map like the hurry up and wait. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get like momentum riding on it. I actually think they have the potential to start that push to kind of keep it going on the back of Gbunny, on the back of Ricotta, and on the back of Shadow.
Yeah.
The only thing they're really missing is like a big blaster presence, but even then, I'm not sure you need it.
Yeah. I think they were a little worried about the Strix, and I think for good reason. I think that Cuss Cutie is really only going to be successful here on the high ground. I think he can flush out the Strix away from the high ground. He can flush Shadow down. The problem is, how are they going to deal with both of these frontliners, especially with Ashe able to play Slugshot, play from range, and try to match this? It seems like Cuss will go to the left side. Flame maybe going to the left side as well, but staying low, trying to stay out of sight, get some information. Cuss still on the high ground, and this is where I think he's going to succeed. They've completely rotated, but I think this is a little bit more dangerous because they don't have a point tank right now on the objective. Both teams are in the opposite side of each other's map, doing the Fish Market flamenco here.
But you can see Ricotta already ready to take up his post. This is actually going to be worse overall for Splyce just because they did kill Cassie earlier. She's going to be rolling up behind them relatively soon, so they're going to have to retake this ground if they want it. Getting aggressive. Flame is going to have a game out of his mind, but right now it's Ricotta finding shots left and right, causing trouble. Flame does get two, but not after watching his team fall.
Oh, Flame going for the plays. Gets the spray as well. Flame with the triple kill, and all of Splyce are dead.
What a turnaround. Like, it all happened in the matter of a second.
That's what you bet on.
And, I mean, if your bet's going to be paying off, that's exactly what you need. You get a little bit of time. That 30% makes a difference because that cuts off the time now that Splyce has to respond. And G2 go ahead and get a capture. This is going to be an interesting map.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a long map.
It's interesting because you have two things, right, going on. You've got Ricotta basically trying to carry his team on the Strix, and if the Strix doesn't hit shots, if the Strix isn't contributing enough, it's very obvious and you lose that fight because they've got two front lines as well as you, but they've got 5 members who can be on the point, and you only have 4. The second thing is you got Flame Effects on the side of G2 Esports, who's playing basically the hunter of the sniper in the back line, which is Strix, but sometimes he's able to just flex back onto the objective and really contribute some meaningful damage onto front lines like Gbunny. It's really going to be a matter of, I think, if Ricotta continues to play this well and do these 360 hip shots, no scopes, and find headshots like that, where Splyce are going to succeed. And on the flip side, we're going to see G2 Esports succeed if Flame Effects can do the same thing for his position.
I think a lot of pressure when it comes down to execution base and how in the zone people are going to be. I think Flame is going to be able to find his zone a lot better than Ricotta. I think if Ricotta keeps getting staggered, keeps getting stumbled, it will fall apart. But he's able to pick up just a little bit right now. Shield's going to be up for Cuss as they're figuring out how to start pushing this payload. This is probably the hardest hill to get up in the realm as far as payloads go.
Especially with a sniper and being protected by a Makoa and an Ashe. I mean, both of those base weapons do a lot of damage and have a lot of range where they are effective. So really, it's just about finding the opening, and the opening would be a kill onto somebody. GusCutie trying to create that himself. He's going to die as a result of Ricotta, and this is where Evil Eye can make the play here that would change it all. And look at this. Already a shell spin, already a very, very low Makoa. Gbunny and Splyce might have just bit off more than they can chew. Evil Eye knows it. This is the blast shield. Actually disengages his homie, who he's trying to kill, all the way over to his team. And they just reset, 30 seconds left.
At least holding the zone. Ult's starting to come online. Although Flashbang was used, I don't mind Flashbang being used whenever it comes off cooldown. The same reason I think Scout is okay whenever you want to pop it, just because it's not going to be as effective, although Scout's I think is a little bit more than a Flashbang. But Strix is going to play the biggest nuisance. Shadow, though, I think is the one standing up right now. Just being able to hit these headshots, holding this angle perfectly. Evil Eye having to fall back. Dosup's having to fall back. Or else they're going to meet, well, bullets.
Yeah, I mean, this is really what hurts right here. And I mean, Cuss and the rest of G2 Esports have, you know, about 2.5 minutes to try to figure out how they create space in this lineup and how do they create space so that Flame can play out of it. And obviously on the point fight, you have to engage in the same space as one another because you're fighting for the same objective. You can't just let that go, and that's where Flame succeeded. So we saw where Ricotta lives, we saw where Flame lives. Can Ricotta make some kind of incredible play here, Gore, that just changes the dynamic on the objective fight and gives Splyce a lead?
I think it all comes down to the start. At the beginning of the game, Evil Eye gets 1 shot, maybe 2 shot, honestly, with the way things went down for Ricotta, and it didn't make a difference. It was a 4v5 that G2 ended up winning. Evil Eye comes back into the fight after a little bit, but it didn't really have a big swing. He was only 1 and 2. He's not doing anything crazy outside of maybe just standard Cassie damage. It is going to be whether or not Flame can get another triple kill like that, or if Ricotta can follow up with more than just a single kill, more than just a little bit of poke and some damage. I need him to get rid of Flame.
Oh, okay, he got the heal, and now this is the window. He uses 1 dash to see up, now using elusive, and it's a little bit of an aggressive decision, I think, to go into the reversal. Or maybe not aggressive is the best word, but just a safe decision, knowing that Ricotta could be peeking out of stealth. Oh, and he buys time to at least force an Immortal from his side to stay alive, but also for some very, very precarious enlightenments that don't result in anything. Gbunny lands with a 130 health score and 90% for G2 Esports. They can just back off here. Oh, GusCutie from downtown cleans up Ashe, and G2 looking even better now that he's able to flank.
And now you're going to see the term Flake Nando in effect right now, trying to get aggressive onto Aspect. Does fall away, and I think the Inflame, the Inflame gets popped. Shadow gets aggressive. Ricotta finds 2, and that 90% looks like it's going to get taken away. Flame finds Aspect, though, so there's no healer here for Splyce.
And that's the issue. Oh, my. Okay, I don't mind this. I'm surprised. I was going to say, Ricotta definitely tried to end his life a little bit earlier. And look at this, man. The man just so confident on the Strix play. It might have just been Cuss diving in at that last moment. He can't get a heal here from Vex. And you're right, it was a last-ditch effort. Tried to get some damage on the Makoa, but it ended up not working. Splyce and Ricotta have made the plays we were talking about. Oh, and they have totally found the answer. Ambush Strix. Look at this.
being able to just flick around like that too. You can actually see there was a point earlier where Ricotta peeks over, thinks he has a kill, misses the shot, but he was so sure that shot was going to connect. He actually flicked back to the point before going back, but it's not going to stop him from continuing his performance right now. Headshots galore so far for Ricotta. Still a dangerous spot to be in, but this is actually where his push might be successful because of it.
It's a tough matchup, man. The solo frontline barrack, really where we saw it have success. So the triple DPS. And it's not a solo frontline here, it's the Fernando, but Cuss is playing this very much so like, I want to get to the back line and stay aggressive. Would G2 Esports have been better off maybe drafting something that could have contended, maybe applied an overwhelm of pressure to the back line? Made Flame not have to do it all by himself? So far, it's kind of hard to tell. Either way, I mean, we see what they were going for. It has worked in round 1, but round 2 has been completely different when Ricotta's hitting his shots like this.
I mean, Immortal is just so valuable as an ulto. You have to lose a lot to trade that out. Or you have to gain a lot, I guess, to trade that out if you want to lose it. But as of right now, the Dome Shield goes down. Flame, if his performance starts to falter, I think that falters all of G2, especially when they all 4 get killed like that. Cuss, the only one alive, and you can see he turned right back into the base. But that gives Ricotta the position to hold up. And this is the big difference. The thing about Fish Market, you are 30, 50 feet away from where that payload's going.
It's a very, very difficult spawn room to come out of and defend effectively from. Especially since when you're defending, you have to be in a frog isle type bowl.
Yeah.
Where you are below your enemy, and they just can peek above hill and then back down. You're seeing the issue here. The 4 to 7 deaths on the members of G2 Esports, and the 2 to 3 deaths on the members of Splyce, especially, most notably, the Ricotta, who's contributed to 19 elims and only died twice.
23 elims for Shadow, both of them only dying twice at this point. Both of them top in the charts, 63, 61K, and I like the push and pull, and this is something we actually got to mention on Wednesday when we were talking about Splyce, where it's Ricotta doing some damage, Shadow doing some damage, and just making up for each other. It's not one player who's just stellar, he's the one performing, he's like 17-2. It's both of them making those steps together, and that makes the big difference.
Well, 9 minutes and 24 seconds have elapsed in this best of 5, and it could be over right here if G2 Esports have something bad happen. Like that could have been. Doseps gets the hook from Vayne, but he gets blocked off by some of the map collision there on Fish Market, so he's going to be thinking his lucky stars. Nice Dread Serpent catches the shell spin cooldown as well, but safety still in place. And now look at this comeback mechanic work, baby. 85% and counting. Gbunny forced to jump down onto the objective. He jumps up, but he can't land. It's Doseps cleaning one up. Flame effects and Cuss Cutie getting the killing blows, but little man Barrack's been on the objective the entire time.
And that's all you need is a hold. Shadow, it doesn't really matter what him and Ricotta do at that point. It doesn't matter how great your game is going. You get staggered very early on. A couple of fights don't go your way. You lose one member to Flame, and then it just starts a perpetual, not even like stagger, it's just you're constantly tripping over yourselves trying to get to the point because of the comeback mechanic.
Yeah.
You see that number hit 80 and you start to panic a little bit. You want to get in there, you want to be able to stop it. But a lot of it is going to be just G2 playing their objective properly and using the timer in their favor to force Splyce into an awkward position. I'd like it if Splyce, they find the defense, but maybe don't use too many ults, or at least use fast charging ults if you're going to try to defend. Absolutely,
man. And one of the bigger things, too, is that the 3 points came on a push. It didn't come on an objective, which gave Splyce a chance to win the game. No one has had a chance to win the game yet. And so that is something that I think G2 Esports will add to their confidence level. Shadow goes in for the Enlightenment. Seems like it was not enough to find a kill. Vex30 actually returning that. And a beautiful stun onto Vayne, who has already used the Ancient Rage. Gets a hook on an Evil Eye, but all of G2 Esports have collapsed. Gbunny's isolated. And he has the Assert Dominance, but will he pull it out here? Ricotta, standing in the Solar Blessing, but you need only 600 damage per second to outweigh with Cauterize 3 the 6,000 healing per second that goes on. And there it is. G2 Esports wiping them right back.
This is actually where the moment, especially around this bowl, is where you're going to see Splyce's lineup, I think, make the big difference. Unless Flame and Cuss can get around the side and provide some tasteful flanks, I think having the sniper on your side is going to make this a lot easier to defend. That payload is going to be very difficult to stand near, and it's going to be very difficult to start picking up kills because of where you have to stand as G2.
And I mean, look, things like this is going to be really amazing for G2 Esports. When Cuss by himself can stay alive, 4 shots away from Ricotta onto him, and just buy time, I think that is where you're going to see Doseps and Flame Effects have value. And look at it, already getting healed up by Vex. Solar Blessing with the Fire Strike. It's going to stun him, and Vayne will finish him, but Vex 30 has not died in a long time. And look at this Mako. He doesn't have the Ancient Rage. He's going to hook Evil alive, but that's going to be it. Vex finds that kill again. Maldamba and Leon fighting, and it's going to be Vex who stays alive. He cannot do it by himself, though. Ricotta will find the double kill and slay them both. And so the Dragon has been put to bed, at least for now, but it is easily able to awake next round. I don't think they're going to try to even attempt this one, Goran. They'll just settle it as round 3 begins soon.
The beginning of each round has had probably the biggest
Round
impact
4, actually.
overall. Does Flame get a kill? Does Ricotta get a kill? How do those kills go down? Do they have any follow-up? Is it like that's the small gameplay these guys are playing with?
Yeah.
Where it's very much just, how did you approach the point? Like, what steps did you take? Do I have master writing at this point? Like, is that going to make a difference just because all of a sudden there's an Androxus behind me or I'm behind him? It's these small decisions that are being made like by these teams right now in the point as to how they approach. It's going to make the big difference. Master writing on Doseps, master writing 2 on Gbunny. But Ricotta, Flame, both going to be getting kind of the old-fashioned standard speed as they get to the point.
I love it. Gbunny going for Master Riding 2. Joseph's only able to match with 1 right now. Ricotta misses the first shot before the shield shows up, and that means it takes 2 shots for him. Joseph's luckily not looking the way of the flashbang, and so Ricotta doesn't really get a lot of value from that, especially if now Androxus or Cuss show up, running ambush. So looking to stay in his stealth as much as possible. A full Solar Blessing heal will keep Gbunny alive, but on the other side, Cuss finds Shadow, and he's still around. There's another Fireball. That hit Gbunny first, so we don't know how much damage that did to the backline. But look at Ricotta, he's so low, that Fireball might have hit him last. And now it's Aspect is forced away. It is G2 Esports here with a full command on this objective. And that means that Splyce, now with a full wipe here, are looking at losing this set, losing this game if they can't grab this objective and defend.
Holding on, 75%, still half a comeback mechanic in favor of G2.
No.
And that looks like the point. I mean, there is just no one from Splyce able to break through, not even get down with Cuss's shield before he just falls back to the rest of his team now the next 2.5 minutes. How big of a difference is it going to make?
I don't know. I honestly think that this is a little bit of a scary proposition, though, for Splyce, because this just happened. They just kind of did this and got to the precipice, and it was a hero play from Ricotta. And how much has Splyce relied on hero plays from Ricotta to do it all? I would say maybe 60% of the time. I think it's a majority of their game plan, but I can't take any credit away from all of the members of Splyce, Gbunny, it's Aspect, Vayne, Ricotta, Shadow. They've all been impressive. They've all improved markedly over just a few weeks, and so even going this far with G2 Esports, even with Flame Effects not being iDrop body, I mean, to me, this is a huge accomplishment here. And if they could win, if they could somehow defend, that would be huge. But G2 Esports are trying to turn on the heat. This didn't work on Ice Mines. Oh, but they found 2 Gore. This might work on Fish Market.
3 already dead. Flame in a perfect position. Vayne just trying his best to fight them off, but it's not going to be enough. Evil Eye finds 2 towards the tail end. Gbunny, he's back, but I don't know if it's going to make a big difference.
I don't think it's going to make a difference at all. He gets punched. And this is something that you want to serve up cold. I love it. And an Androxus Accursed Arm, G2 Esports. They take the win. And we are in the beach.
This is where G2 get to go. After that, take a break. Go to the beach.
Just relax. Chill out. Go to Florence, you know? Go to Capri.
What a hell of a set.
Take me somewhere. And I think G2 Esports and the rest of this audience have been watching, and man, so proud of Splyce. And I think a lot of mutual respect gained in this set. And Flame Effects has a big day, and especially this last game, going 16-9, running Abyssal Touch, taking a risk with his loadout, you know, having a different style, going away from the traditional, maybe safer, you know, kind of Power of the Abyss. And just to me, it's a tremendous thing to give somebody moments to succeed, have them kind of slightly fail, and then give them more moments and more moments. Pat them on the back, say, hey, man, you're here with us. You're a part of the team, and then see them succeed in the end.
I mean, it says number 4, but Splyce, as far as I'm concerned, the top 4 are pretty much all within. Well, maybe Envy's a little ahead.
Right.
2 through 4. Those 3 teams, how about, are the ones that are looking real good. G2 has 2-1. They have a chance to go up 3-1, depending on how Renegades goes, but I think Splyce is in this just as much as anyone else.
Got a great set coming up for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's obviously going to be G2 Esports finishing off their doubleheader with the Renegades. What a set in Game 1. It's Friday. Get hype. Last one of the week. And these are your post-game stats just to allow you to get a little bit of a screenshot if you want to save them. We're going to go on a quick break. Obviously, we haven't decided where we want to travel to yet. So far, it seems like it's the Abyss, but we will be back with a different answer. See you guys in just a sec.